I'm Trudy, the founder of InsightLA, and very happy to see your faces this Sunday morning. Those of you who are showing your faces, thank you. And it's also fine not to show your faces. I'm just happy to see you when I do. And so for those of you who might be new to this sitting group, just so you know, it's divided roughly into 3 sections. The first, we first meditate together, then we have some teachings together, and then some conversation. And the conversation can be, about the teachings or any question that you have relating to your practice or anything you'd like to share, insights from the week, or anything. So we'll begin by meditating today. I'm going to talk about Indigenous Peoples Day, the proclamation that President Biden made, and some of the history of this holiday and how it fits in with our practice of whether it's a Buddhist practice or mindfulness practice, how this is important for us. So some of you are already sitting or lying down. And Anissa, Alex said she did send it. Just so you know, it is embedded in an article. So the link is to the article, and then there's a little 3-minute video inside it.
I did just get it from her. I'm just trying to figure out how to get it off my phone too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to use it right away. You have plenty of time.
Okay.
So you have plenty of time to get to that. Thank you, Anissa. And thank you everybody for being here. So happy to see you. Let's just sit together. I'll do some guided meditation, but not too much today. And so putting your body, arranging your body in whatever frame makes it possible for you to hold, to be quiet, to hold the body relaxed and still, relaxed if possible, but definitely this is a time to just quiet the body, because when we quiet our bodies, our minds follow. I like to ring the bell and then take 3 deep breaths to begin. And then just taking a deep breath in and out. The in-breath, the energizing breath. And the out-breath can be the relaxing or releasing tension breath. And one more time, breathing in and releasing. Begin the meditation practice with the breath, if that's a comfortable subject for your meditation. Just keeping each breath company with our attention, aware of the beginning of the breath, the middle, and the end. And that slight pause before the next breath is born. If the breath is not a soothing subject for meditation for you, just bringing awareness to sound, the sounds of life around you. Noticing how the sounds appear and fade away. Or the sensations in the body. Some warmth or tingling or tightness. You may feel the body relaxing. But again, whatever sensations are present, comfortable, uncomfortable, pleasant, unpleasant. Sensations too appear and change and vanish, and new sensations appear, just as a new breath always appears, until the last one. And noticing the impulse to move or fidget, and if you feel that, if there's a restlessness, you can make a light mental note, restless, restless, and just see what happens if you don't scratch that itch. Or the tickle, just noticing the sensations, letting them arise and pass away while you are still. And if you're feeling kind of sleepy or dull, if there's some kind of lack of energy and dullness, just bring a little more attention to the in breath, that energizing breath. And if the mind is super busy or the heart is troubled this morning, just bring, or whatever time it is where you are, just bring a little more attention to the out breath. Just following that out breath all the way to where it dissolves into space, vanishes. Before the next breath appears. Oh, you're leaving? Oh. Have fun. Thank you. Yeah. What? And every time we get distracted, just coming back to right now. And you can sprinkle a little gratitude on this moment. Appreciating the ups and downs of life, riding the waves of joy and sorrow. Fully here, fully awake. Present with all of it. So we had a quiet meditation today. I knocked over, just a minute, I knocked over the thing that holds my notes so I can see them. Yeah, so I got inspired for the teaching today by President Biden's announcement on Friday, a couple days ago, that that he was officially naming Indigenous Peoples Day alongside Columbus Day. And at first I was kind of disappointed because Columbus, of course, was glorified for something that really he shouldn't have been, because between the 1492, when Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, within 50 years, the population of Indigenous people was reduced from estimated millions to about 500 people due to the enslavement and slaughter and genocide of the Indigenous people. And some people feel that, I think it was Howard Zinn who suggested that we should be really celebrating the life of his fellow explorer, Bartolome de las Casas, who actually participated in the enslavement of people, but then later repented and became a monk, actually. And although he really regretted his initial participation in all of that, and then devoted the rest of his life to trying to let the Spanish government know about the abuse of the Indigenous people and to defending Indigenous people's rights. And he was really the first one to expose the oppression and abuse of Indigenous people by Europeans in America and call for the abolition of slavery. So that's something that I wanted you to know, as we all are living on the unceded lands of Indigenous peoples. Here it's the Coast Miwok tribes, about a dozen tribes, and you know wherever you are. And so that's the Columbus piece. But then I also came to understand why Columbus Day was also important. We're a multicultural society, and that for Italian Americans, Columbus Day, the origin of that holiday, was one of the biggest mass lynchings in American history. Although actually, the story is that there were 11, maybe there were more, but there were at least 11 Italian American people imprisoned for a crime that the jury had acquitted them of. They had been acquitted by a jury, but then a mob came in and lynched a couple and killed, I guess, others, to a total of about 11 people. So for Italian Americans, Columbus Day marks the time when our government apologized for that. So, this is what it is to live in a multicultural society. But I was really happy that President Biden basically acknowledged that while our country was founded on the idea of liberty and equality for all, it hasn't been that way, especially for Indigenous people. And he said, today we recognize Indigenous people's resilience and strength, as well as the immeasurable positive impact they've made on every aspect of American society. Just really acknowledging in public service and scholarship and entrepreneurship and the arts and countless other fields, especially armed forces, being on the front lines of the COVID pandemic, that that Native Americans and Indigenous communities have really led the way with vaccination and just naming lots of positive achievements that needed recognition. And you might think, well, what does this really actually have to do with mindfulness and Dharma practice and what we're doing, but I think it has everything to do because of the teaching of interdependence and interconnectedness. And my friend John Evans, who is a Zen priest in the community of Norman Fisher, and some of you know, who's come to teach at InsightLA a lot in the past years and hopefully will come again. Norman made John a teacher, and John has spent a lot of her professional life working with Indigenous people all over the world, actually, and was recently honored by Indigenous people all over the world for her work with them. And she created, there's going to be an Indigenous gratitude ceremony tomorrow at Everyday Zen. I can find the link and put it in the chat for you if you are interested. But she created with a couple of her Indigenous friends this prayer, which I wanted to read to you and can send to you afterwards. It's too long to put in the chat, but I can have it emailed to you afterwards. And it begins with a very classic Zen Buddhist chant, and then which goes like this: may we awaken Buddha's compassion and luminous mirror wisdom, chanting the Enmei Juku Kyanan Gyo for protecting life. We dedicate the merit and wholly devote and entrust ourselves to, and then this is where her prayer begins: remembering and honoring the ancestors who have given us all the gifts of this rare and precious life together. And this is actually very important because in my upbringing, and I think the upbringing of many white people, at least in our culture, I really wasn't taught anything about a kind of daily remembering or honoring of ancestors, let alone that ancestors could be a resource for me in my life, that I could call on them for protection and inspiration. So remembering and honoring the ancestors who have given us all the gifts of this rare and precious life together. Understanding the earth, ocean, sky, plants, birds, trees, bugs, all two-legged, four-legged, and no-legged are gifts. Gifts of boundless giving, receiving, and reciprocity. Understanding how a true gift is given. It's something given for nothing. An offering given without obligation, expectation, no merit, and no gain. And this made me reflect on how often do I have that spirit when I give a gift, as opposed to feeling, I have to bring a hostess gift or some sense of even mild obligation about gift giving, or it's a holiday or it's a birthday, but just this idea of freely offered, Knowing the nature of gifts is continuous motion, how they increase in value when passed freely with love from one living being to another, growing richer in every exchange. And of course, this isn't just talking about, gifts of material things. In the teachings of Buddhist psychology and philosophy, and the practice is that giving, of course, dana, generosity, is super important. It was the first thing that the Buddha would always talk about when giving talks. And there were, different kinds of giving, of course, but the highest form of giving is giving the gift of Dharma, giving the gifts of the teachings, giving the gifts of spiritual friendship. And I love this part about how gifts increase in value when passed freely with love from one living being to another, growing richer in every exchange. So I freely pass the gifts that I've received from my teachers to you, and excuse me. And then you, when you meet in a small group and talk about your experience or whatever way that you might share what you're learning, you pass that gift on. And it grows richer in every exchange. Remembering how our gifts from each other are gifts from all beings, from mountains and clouds, deserts and plains, rivers and oceans, bears and eagles, snakes and possums, spiders and buffalo, from people of rice streams and cornfields, the tarot keepers and kiva dancers, all Buddhists in the 10 directions and the 3 times. Do you know what the 10 directions are? North, south, east, west, northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest, above and below. So that just about covers it. And do you know what the 3 times are? Past, present, and future. So all Buddha's 10 directions 3 times. That means all of us, by the way. Establish us in sacred relationship, birthing, dying through time and attention, opening all hearts to peace and sympathetic joy, equanimity and humility. Realizing we must learn to receive as well as to give. And, you know, some of us are better transmitters, givers, you know, than we are receivers. And some of us have to learn how to receive. And others of us are quite comfortable receiving care and receiving blessings and forget sometimes to share them. So just knowing, you know, which side of it you're on and maybe making a little course correction. For example, Jack loves to, it's very fortunate for me, loves to do things for me, or if I want something, to give it to me. But it's not as easy for him to let me take care of him or give things to him. And this might be a kind of classic gender difference, but I think it doesn't, you know, we can't generalize that way, but it's just interesting to be aware of. So realizing we must learn to give, to receive as well as to give, to reciprocate love and support, to offer a hand, a smile, a song or a dance, a simple word of tender kindness, knowing such ceremonial giveaways echoes our oldest teachings. I love this idea of ceremonial giveaways. That a moment of mindfulness, a moment of loving kindness, a moment of full presence, where we really look and see somebody, where we offer a smile, a greeting, whatever it might be, that this is a ceremonial moment, actually. This is what is at the heart of sacred ritual and ceremony, that intention. The intention to love, to recognize, to see, to give and receive. Reaffirming our respect and care for each other, not turning away from our community or global bonds and responsibilities. Acknowledging and bowing to all of our awe-inspiring knowledge systems, our diverse culture, life ways and practices of well-being, our languages and cosmovisions, our ways of praying, of kneeling, and of kissing the compassionate earth. Sharing the grief and pain, the injustices and tragedies of our histories. Committing our lives to ending all suffering. Wearing invisible robes of reverence. And I love that phrase again, invisible robes of reverence, because in Zen practice, we would always put on robes to go into the meditation hall called the Zendo. Even if it was just a little short robe, they had the same ones for everybody. And then longer ones if you were a Dharma teacher and so forth. But the idea was that we're giving up for that time of meditating, of sitting and practicing together like we're doing today, that we're just surrendering our unique identities for that period of time, that we're just merging our hearts and minds and being equal in that way. And it was funny too, because I remember once in the early days of our Korean Zen practice, we had to put on our robes, of course, and this one man came. It was a retreat, so it was a residential retreat, and it was just this big old house. We all sleep on the floor in different rooms, and this guy came down in his bathrobe, and he was just one of those provocateurs. He wanted to see if the teacher would react because he was wearing a robe, but it was a red plaid flannel robe. I don't recall anyone saying anything except laughing. So sharing the grief and pain, the injustices and tragedies of our histories, wearing the invisible robes of reverence, filling each empty bowl, protecting and delighting in our sacred belonging, our usness, our intimate connections here on this very day. We return the gifts we are given, offering this ceremonial exchange of gratitude. So how many times did you think of gratitude as a gift that you could offer at a ceremony? This is so beautiful, right? We return the gifts we're given, offering this ceremonial exchange of gratitude for the awakening and freedom of all beings. Our minds are now one. Our minds are now one. Our hearts are now one. May all beings find peace and healing through Buddha's way. So this prayer, I really appreciated this prayer. I appreciate my friend for writing it with her friends. And it really brought to mind for me, as it does any time that I really pay attention to, learn from, or study the teachings from Indigenous people, Indigenous culture. Immediately, the climate, this web of interconnection that we live in comes to mind, you know, the environment. And there's a quote from a very revered teacher of the last century named Buddhadasa, if I can find it here. I don't actually see it. Okay. All right, we'll skip that one. I think it fell down behind the desk somewhere. But the person who has, in my lifetime, really brought a lot of attention to this matter in relation to healing the environment is Joanna Macy. She is a revered Buddhist teacher, 90 or 92. She's in her 90s now. And she did a lot of workshops called the Council of All Beings, where she would teach that defending the environment, protecting the earth, is actually taking care of ourself, that it's a matter of self-defense to take care of the earth. And she wrote a book called Thinking Like a Mountain that really contains the teachings of those workshops and how to offer them. And it's all geared toward experiencing our human place in this life, you know, our place as being part of a whole web of life, that we're not just, you know, at the top point, the apex of this human-centered pyramid, resting on the lives of all other species. And so anyway, I recommend that book. It really describes the 2-day workshop that she led to affirm this interconnectedness that we have with the earth and with all life, and to do it in a way that really brought a lot of wisdom and released a lot of energy, vitality, empowerment, so that people, each one of us, would feel that we could open to our own inner resources of courage and compassion and have them be more available to us, so that we could go forth into the world with some inspired intention to support the efforts to protect our earth. And I wanted to show you a short video. It's really just Joanna talking, but it's in honor of her. And I don't know, Anissa, if you were able to cue that up out of the article.
Yes, I was.
Oh, wonderful. Now, at one point, there's music behind it, and it's just her words, really. The scene doesn't change. At one point, the music gets kind of loud, and you might be thinking, oh God, I can't hear her. But take heart, because the music will quiet down and you can hear her at the end. And it's just 3 minutes. So Anissa, if you could show that to us, that would be I would be very grateful.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
In this little video, she's talking about just feeling the feelings around the environmental degradation and the extinction of species that is happening so fast. And yeah, thank you, Anissa. And she ties it to the Buddhist teachings. So we're not hearing the volume. I'm not. Are you? Are any of you hearing it? No. Anissa? Woohoo! Anissa, can you hear me? We aren't getting any volume here.
It's not very loud, Trudy. Let me turn it up.
Friend this pain, as I knew it was speaking.
Oh, we can hear it.
Let's start over. Okay.
There's a colossal anguish, and it's not an individual matter, but we as a planet people are sick in our soul. We have pathologized pain. We have made it a wrong thing. We have made it like a mistake, rather than acknowledging that we need pain to alert us for what needs attention. And we have been treating it as some kind of enemy to our cheerfulness. I began so in this as I was exploring how personally to befriend this pain, as I knew it was speaking some truth, as is indeed in Buddhism the first noble truth. The first noble truth that the Lord Buddha taught is dukkha, suffering. There is suffering. And if you want to get anywhere, honey, if you want to grow up, if you want to open to life, if you want to be enlightened, whatever, however you describe the state you're after, then you have to face that and see there is suffering. And there were lines from my childhood in the church, the Christian church, blessed are they that mourn. And that would come out in sound. And so what happens for people as they get real about their true feelings, when they tell the truth about
Okay, we just lost it, Anissa.
It's like that poem
Thanks.
of Mary Oliver, where she says, you tell me your despair and I'll tell you mine. And this allows the world to become more vivid, seeing the wild geese, seeing this incredible planet that we're in with all the life that's around us. Because we had the courage, the strength to speak of our despair. But precisely because we speak it, we don't stay there. Because that despair is the covering of our love for our world, and we crack it open by speaking it so the love can act. So the key is in not being afraid of our pain for the world, not being afraid of the world's suffering. And if you're not afraid of it, then nothing can stop you.
Thank you, Anissa. Thank you so much. That wasn't easy. I appreciate you doing it.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. And I found Buddha Dasa's quote, and I wanted to read one from him. And he said, the entire cosmos is a cooperative. I love that. But the entire cosmos is a co-op. The sun, the moon, the stars live together as a co-op. The same is true for humans and animals, trees, and the earth. When we realize that the world is a mutual, interdependent, cooperative enterprise, then we can build a noble environment. And if our lives are not based on this truth, then we shall perish. And that's from a great meditation teacher of the last century, Buddhadasa Bhikkhu. And the Buddha himself said, and this was as he was dying, last teachings from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So long as a community meets in harmony and departs in harmony, honors the long-standing ancestral teachings and wisdom, venerates their elders, protects the vulnerable among them, honors and protects the sacred places in nature, they can be expected to prosper and not decline. He also spoke out specifically against sexual violence, the Buddha. It's really a wonderful sutta. And then a quote from Chief Seattle, this is a famous one that you may know. The earth does not belong to humans. Humanity belongs to the earth. Humans do not weave the web of life. They're merely a strand in it. Whatever humans do to the web, they do to themselves. Teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother. And it does bring some despair when we look at what's actually happening. And I want to recommend a book that just came out by Paul Hawken called Regeneration. It really outlines how the planet, how we can participate in the regeneration of the planet. And it just came out. And then this is a quote I love from Dmitri Shostakovich, who was a famous Soviet composer who had to really walk the line in his innovative music because he could have been imprisoned or killed by Stalin any minute. But he said, when a person is in despair, it means they still believe in something. Isn't that beautiful? Can really take that to heart. Anyway, I have lots more quotes and things about this, and maybe we'll continue from a different angle, some of this teaching next week. But I do want to quote one other person. This is a Haitian Japanese woman, Patty Byrne, who has been very active in disability justice, and she disabled, queer, forget all her other identifications, but she says, in this historical moment, we have to fight for the valuable lives of butterflies, of moths, and elders, because our lives and all life depends on it. We must move beyond our cultural beliefs that tell us we're only worth as much as we can produce. So these are some of what I wanted to share with you this morning on this holiday weekend, and or whatever time it is, wherever you are. And now I want to open up for some conversation with each other, and Anissa will call on you if you raise your hand, which you can do with the reaction button down toward the bottom right of your Zoom screen. She'll call on you. You can unmute yourself and speak. You can, as I said before, it doesn't have to be about any of the things I've been talking about. You can speak about whatever is moving your heart or perplexing you. And this isn't we don't say Q&A anymore because I don't have answers. It's Q&R, questions and reflections. We'll just reflect together. And some of you who are often quiet, if you want to, as Joanna Macy said, nothing can stop you. If you want to just speak up this morning and say whatever you'd like to say, that would be very welcome. Meredith, you can unmute yourself. Sorry, I just saw it and you
Okay.
Hi, I just thought
Hi.
I'd say hi first instead of in the last 2 seconds. I felt for some time about people's responding to global warming or not responding. I have felt I wish there was, I don't know, I'll just say it simply, see what happens, but that the emphasis, there was more emphasis on how we feel about ourselves, and that through that comes our feelings for the earth. I don't think that's the only way, but I sometimes or often feel like global warming is such an overwhelming experience to comprehend. Overwhelming, I mean, everything that has seemed to be, shall we say, one way, you know, a world full of the ever giving earth. It's in my mind, but to really take it to heart. Certainly there's despair and terror maybe, and great sadness, and a lot. I just wish that the connection between how we feel about ourselves and each other and how we treat the earth or not was was talked about a great deal more, you know, and to open up the awareness of our own goodness. I mean, there's probably so much shame and guilt, and there's someone, I forget who said it, but it's a person who's been ecologically wise for a long time. Someone asked him about how does he feel about global warming, and he said, "Don't feel guilty."
That was Gary Snyder who said that.
Yeah, okay. And you know, I just think our own personal feelings are so important about ourselves, about it. I mean, about ourselves to start with, but
No, I understand what you're saying. I think it's
Okay.
true. I think it's true. You're making that link between one's own sense of being worthy and of value and mattering, to being able to extend those feelings to all life, really. And that if you don't feel that way about yourself, it's harder to value. And you know what you're saying, Meredith, is writ large all over the globe. You know, I think that
what do you mean, writ large?
I mean that the feelings of not valuing oneself, I would call it also not understanding one's true nature, the goodness that is our true nature. That is what leads people to be caught by, classically we'd say, greed, anger, and ignorance.
Right.
But it works if you look at the activity of, you know, corporations that are entering communities where, you know, where their livelihood depends on the land and the water and so forth. Anyway, I don't need to go into all of that, but I'm just appreciating what you're saying and agreeing with you.
I think the most rich part of what you talked about was the despair. You know, the opening of the human.
Yeah, thank you.
with us.
Yeah, thank you. I love that part too. Yeah, thank you. Did I infuse everybody with despair? Oh, good. Oh, good. Because I think what Meredith and Joanna are saying is, we do need to not be afraid to acknowledge the feelings and the despair that arise in our hearts. Because I think that looking away from that makes it, I don't know about you, but it makes me look away from the whole issue.
Can I just say,
No.
I'm going to jump. Am I
Yeah.
over talking? It's the tenderness toward the despair that's so
Yes.
crucial.
Yes.
It's the
Beautiful.
acceptance of it. It's the,
Yeah.
of course we feel despair. It's the comfort for the despair. It's the understanding, the tenderness. I don't know, it's like, that is not bad.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
The Pope, I talked a while ago, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe it was more than that. I have no sense of time anymore between the pandemic and just everything. But the Pope Francis gave a beautiful talk about, he gave a TED talk. So however many years ago that was that the Pope gave a TED talk, where he talked about we really need a revolution of tenderness. That's the kind of revolution we need in this world. So Meredith, you and the Pope are on the same page.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. And that tenderness is not, it's like Sharon Salzberg says about kindness, or compassion. It's not weakness. It's not far away. It's not weakness. We think of tenderness toward babies and old people if we're lucky, and
Yeah, thank you.
Like that.
Thank you. Yeah, our vulnerability and being willing to be vulnerable is definitely a spiritual strength for sure, and emotional and psychological as well.
Hi, Trudy, Gabby. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. If I have a background noise, I can get off. Just heading to a park with a beautiful species next to me, a little dog full of light. And I appreciate your talk today because definitely it's hard to be in this world these days, but also sometimes I feel like I need to do more. I need to do more. And, but I try to do what's in my reach.
Yeah.
And not to feel, I sometimes feel like I need to quit my job so I could do more. But I'm like, no, I'm making a difference here with other beings, little ones in this case. And just share the light for now, the best I can do. And I was watching a documentary yesterday that my teacher, the octopus. It was beautiful. I was like, wow, I was blown away. How little
It is
species of
beautiful.
light can teach us so much.
Yeah, that was very, very beautiful. I saw it too. Gabby,
And
thank you.
thank you
Go
for
ahead.
the session today.
Yeah, and thank you for naming that feeling of I should do more, I need to be doing more. And I think that's something too that Meredith was pointing to when she quoted, the Gary Snyder saying, whatever you do, don't feel guilty, don't just do it out of guilt. That's always been kind of a koan for me, because I feel so guilty about so many things, so much of the time when I'm not being mindful. It's sort of a default setting. I remember my father once had a dream that he told us the next morning. He said, and somehow, he said, I didn't know what I had done, but everything was my fault. And I thought, well, that just sums it up, that feeling that you can have, you know? Yeah, thank you for naming that, Gabby, because what you're also saying is that you're recognizing the ways in which you are supporting life, little lives in this case, and those lives are vulnerable too. And anything we do to take care of life in all its forms in myriad ways is so important to recognize and to appreciate in ourselves. So thank you for that.
Miranda, you have a question? If you could unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share. I'm so grateful for these Sunday mornings, and I'm so grateful for InsightLA. And I'm just really moved at the shift that you gave me, that I had a lot of pain when I came here. And I'm aware of such a loving current in that pain after everything that was said in the video. And I feel real love and appreciation for my pain and my sorrow. And it's just a really beautiful shift. And I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that with everybody, Miranda, because that's a huge shift. It's a huge shift. That shift is what it's what Meredith was talking about earlier, and it's what Joanna Macy. It's the teaching that we can make that shift from being caught by, oppressed by, abused by our pain, abusing ourselves with it or because of it, to wearing that robe of reverence, you know, having that tenderness and appreciating that the pain is part of life. It's not your fault. It's not because you did this or that, or didn't do this or that, or got in the wrong relationship or got out of the right. It's not because of any of that. It's just the pain of being human, which gets triggered by all those different heartaches and heartbreaks. But it's such a relief when you don't have to blame yourself or take it personally, even though its expression is intimately personal. Yeah, thank you for your courage in telling us that. And for being here. Yeah. Jim, you want to unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to echo what was just said. I came to InsightLA quite by accident. Thank you, Marilyn Donnett.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know I was looking for InsightLA, but apparently I was, because I feel like I found something that I need. And there's so much that is spinning around in my head in terms of process. But I'm remembering, I think what triggered me wanting to say something was the mention of, I'm not going to try and quote, but the mention of accepting circumstances and facts. And then, so you could, I guess you could frame what I'm talking about with RAIN, recognize, allow, investigate, nurture, or you could, I've been practicing that, and I've also been practicing what my therapist suggested. She said, parent yourself or reparent yourself so that there's big, strong Jim in 2021 and there's little Jim whenever that was. And lean into what's uncomfortable or frightening or fearful or whatever it is. Lean in just enough so that you're not backing away and ignoring and avoiding and continuing with the cycle that instantiated whenever the
Right.
the moment was when that was put in place. And then have big Jim tell little Jim, okay, we're going to lean in just enough until you get really uncomfortable, and then we'll lean back. And then next time we'll be able to lean in a little bit more, and so on. And that, I've been doing that lean in, lean back, lean in, lean back. And I've gone through some unbelievably difficult stuff emotionally, with regard to my history, but also with regard to current events and so on. And just, and it works. Like doing those, this practice works, man. It's amazing. I'm completely sold. I'm completely sold on this whole thing. And I remembered just now that my dad, who was a sober alcoholic, many times he said that acceptance was the key. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And at the time I thought, well, F that, this sucks. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever my reaction was, I was frustrated, stubborn, angry, scared, whatever it was, But now I see his wisdom is beyond reproach. I mean, acceptance that's the key that unlocks the door to getting past whatever it is that you need. And then you need to nurture yourself. You don't need to look outside for nurture. It comes from within, from practice, from all those things. And it's just, I mean, I could go on. I don't want to hog the time, but it's just awesome. And Trudy, you're such a gift. The way you break it all down for us is just amazing. And I'm a huge fan. And you and Jack are just amazing force for good in this crazy ass world that we live in. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Jim. And everybody should know Jim is our sound guy who sends, he's the one who does the recordings and posts them on YouTube. If you miss, you can always see them. And he's the one who lets me know and, my bell is off. And I forgot to do it, Jim. I'm so sorry.
I know you. I figured you forgot.
I know.
It's quite all right.
Yeah, I totally did. But I remember when you first came to look at the sound at Olympic, and you were just the sound engineer who came to help us with the sound. And here you are, like this incredibly important member of our sitting group and our community. So I want to thank you for that. And to say, yeah, really thank you. And to say what you're describing is actually the way that we work with intense pain or trauma, touch and go. So you obviously have a good therapist. I'm happy for that. And I'm happy for all the healing that is happening in you. So thank you. Yeah, thanks. And Sherry.
Hi. Yes, I also am very, very grateful for this community and connection. And I think about it really, literally every day. It's something that helps me get through rough times. And I had an experience yesterday where I was with some people that I hadn't seen in decades. And it was from a very different time in my life and lots of very different ideas and political divide and all that kind of stuff. And I just found myself going under the waves to the trying to keep a connection and reminding myself that if I perceived things the way they did, if I had their experiences, somehow I would feel like they feel, even not understanding how that could be possible. But and also just in a weird way to keep open to that. It's really so easy to want to withdraw and and just push away. And I don't know if it's the timing or something else, but the cat that sometimes you see me stroking during the sessions, he's like 18 years old, and he's the one pet. We've had many pets over many years, and this one I never connected with heart to heart. I never bonded with him for some weird reason. We just didn't click, and I always felt like a detachment. But in the last probably 6 or 8 months, I just feel like we've gotten closer, and my heart has finally softened and let him in. And I'm really grateful, because I do believe he's at the end of his his life on earth. So, but it just reminded me to keep that openness with the people that I saw yesterday too, and that somehow we'll be able to connect if we keep open to that.
That's very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, what you said about, really understanding that if you were walking in their shoes, you might see it the way they do it's so hard sometimes these days, because we're so polarized and but yeah, thank you for that compassion. It's beautiful. And I just appreciate everybody's sharing today. And I see that Rick, you put a big question in the chat, so I think I'm going to ask you to ask it next week, and just respond quickly to Chris, who's asking, when are we going to get back together in person? When can we really be together? And I just want to say that I don't know, that InsightLA, the board and the decisions they make and everything we've been focused on finding a new executive director, because Mark is leaving after our benefit on November 6th, which I also want to highlight that we're having a benefit, our annual benefit, November 6th. And if you're getting help here and support and enjoying it, please consider being part of our benefit. But we do have a new ED. The board, she was selected unanimously. I think I might have mentioned it a few weeks ago, and we're really thrilled about her. Her name is Alicia Talbert, and she is coming to us from NBC, so coming from a business framework, but she's been a very dedicated student of Buddhist practice for decades. And she's also identifies as, she's an African American. So I feel like, we really hit the jackpot with Alicia. Who knows what she'll really be like? We never know, right, until we're all together in a relationship. And even, but I really feel we're all very excited about her coming, but no decisions. She's starting at the end of the month, Chris, and then, she'll have to sort of get her bearings, but I know that there aren't going to be any decisions made in the next month. That's basically what I'm saying, because the focus is really on the benefit and Mark winding up and Alicia coming. But hopefully this is something that will happen when it can. I miss being in person with you all, but at the same time, we are going to always have to figure out how to be simultaneously online, because our community has expanded in geographical reach thanks to the technology. So that's something else we also are excited about Alicia for, because she does come with a lot of experience in digital stuff. So let's sit together. I won't ring the bell too many times, because apparently it's not sounding very good to you. Thank you, Jim, but I promise I'll attend to that. I'll just ring it briefly, just spend a minute literally together in appreciation and gratitude. So at the end of our time of study and practice together, we want to share the goodness of our practice with all beings everywhere without exception, honoring all the Indigenous peoples who were here so long before us, healing the racism that has denied them their due, and remembering these encouraging words, Rick, from the Buddha as he was leaving this life. So long as a community meets in harmony and departs in harmony, honors the long-standing ancestral teachings and wisdom, venerates their elders, protects the vulnerable among them, honors and protects the sacred place of nature, they can be expected to thrive, to prosper and not decline. So we met in harmony today. I want to encourage you to attend a harmonious breakout group and then to leave in harmony. And I will see you next week. Wonderful to see you all. And thank you as always for your practice.
Thank
You
you.
can unmute yourselves.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Sherry,
So we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break and then come back for the breakout groups.
Thanks for the wisdom coming from the group and Trudy. I appreciate the group's sharing very much.